Alrighty, CNT140, we are working on our work area outlet lab. So I actually downloaded the lab. I have it as a PDF on my desktop, if you will. You want to use that as kind of a guideline on what we're doing. This podcast is on terminating the outlet. So you will need, out of your toolkit, you'll need your electrician scissors, you'll need the jacket stripper, you will need the termination tool. This is for terminating the outlet. And then out of your supply bag, you'll need your work area outlet and then your piece of horizontal cabling. The horizontal cabling is the solid core conductor. If you look at the actual jacket label, you'll see in there that it's 24 gauge, and then there's also a CMR for riser. It's in the code there, CMR. That's what you're looking for. The other piece of cable is the green one. That's a stranded conductor that'll be for patch cable later. So make sure you have the blue cable in our supply bag for horizontal cabling. All right, so now that I have all my pieces out, I'm going to kind of clear my work area just a little bit so I can prep my cable. To prep my cable, I'm going to find one of the ends. It really doesn't matter at this point. I'm going to take the end of my cable, make sure it is a clean cut. If need be, trim it off if it's, you know, looking ragged for any reason. I'm going to grab my stripper. This is my stripper here. We're going to use the deeper V. We're going to lay the cable into that. And there's actually directions in your toolkit if you need help. The Multicable Adjuster, okay? This actually has pictures on showing you how to strip your category UTP, so if that helps you, use that as well. Okay. The way this is designed, I'm going to put the cable into the larger V right there, and I don't need too much, maybe an inch or two. I'm going to leave the label up, and the way this is designed, I give it about 2 or 3 turns around, and I'll see some lines appear. If I give it a little bit of a bend, just to kind of loosen it up, I should be able to pull the insulation off. Once I have that, I'll just kind of straighten my wires out. The floss that's here, I will cut that and get that out of the way. Okay. Now that I have my wires, I'm going to just loosen up the pairs just a little bit so that they're hopefully, there we go. So I have my 4 colored wire pairs. Those are ready now to feed into my outlet. But let's take a minute to look at our outlet to know what we're doing here. This is the actual, that'll work. There's my outlet body. This is the part that, you know, workstation cable plugs into. If I look at the back, I'll see that there's metal V's in there. The way this works is my wires feed into this red carrier part, if you will, and they hold the wires in position. And as I crimp this together, actually goes this way. If I crimp it, as I crimp this together, this holds the wires in place so that they're forced into the metal V's, and the wire gets forced down into the metal V like so, and that metal V cuts the insulation, makes contact with the copper conductor on the inside of the wire. So these are what are called insulation displacement connectors. So I need to make sure that I have the wires into the correct slots, that when this feeds in, they get connected to the correct pins in there. So if I look at my red, you know, kind of carrier, if you will, I will see, let me see if I can zoom in, there we go, that looks pretty good. I will see that I have both color codes on. I have the B and the A. The A is written right below. Now, I grabbed a pen and I crossed out the A color code just so it was easier to look at. The way this works is I actually feed my wires in through the connector, and as they come out the other side, some of the wires bend up and some of the wires bend down into these little hooks and slots, if you will. So the way this color code is written, as I feed the wires in, the wires that are going to bend to the top are up here, the white, brown, brown, and for our B color code, the white, green, green. These wires are going to bend up towards you. The white, brown, right, blue, blue, and the white, orange, orange for our color code are going to bend down from you down towards the table. So I want to get my wires in position that I have brown over here, green over here, and then blue down on the bottom left and orange on the bottom right. So I'm going to take my wires and try to get them in rough order. Brown and green are up top here, and blue and orange are kind of down on the bottom. So I don't actually have to do much other than I'm separating the pairs just a little bit, because as I feed them into the connector, you'll see that there's like a little plus sign in there dividing the wire pairs out. So if I have them just a little bit spaced, it's going to be easier for me when I feed it into the connector. So I'm going to carefully feed these wires in, and I'm smirking a little bit because this is a bit of a challenge the first time you do it. So I'm feeding them in, and I'm going to look here to make sure that each wire pair is going into its own channel, and it is. Yeah, that's going to take a time or two the first time you do it. I'm going to kind of seat them in there so they're in there nice and firm. And the next thing we're going to do before we even worry about putting these wires in the correct location is in the back here, this little unit slides to kind of grab a hold of the jacket. So there's actually, on our little jack termination tool, if I look when I open it up, and almost like a little alligator, there's a little notch here. This is going to push on the bottom of this to squeeze it and hold the jacket. That way the cable does not slide out of the outlet as we're terminating. So I'm going to lay this in here so that I might need to bend my wires out of the way a little bit. So we'll do this. There we go. I'm going to lay that in here, and this top part up there has a little recess to hold this red sled, if you will, that actually kind of falls into there like so. And then this little notch that's here is going to come down and push on this part that slides. So I'm going to hold the blue cable in, and I'm going to carefully bring this down. So let me do it from the side now so you can see. See that little tab there? It's going to push on the bottom of this red sled just a little bit. You'll hear it kind of go zip. And it's actually grabbing a hold of the jacket of the cable so these wires don't slide out as I continue my termination. All right. If by chance this isn't the right position, if you squeeze these little ears, that sled will kind of slide back up. You can reposition the cable and redo that step. Okay. All right. Now that I have that, it's kind of holding the wire pairs in so they don't slide back out. I'm going to set this aside. I'll need him again for another step. I'm now going to take my wires and put them in color code order. So I will take my wire pair here. I'm just going to untwist it just a little bit so that I can do white, brown, brown, just as the color code says. White, brown here. That's going to go in that little notch, and brown right there. And I'm just going to pull them in. Oops. Get in there. There we go. So white, brown, brown up top. The next I need is white, green, green. So I'm going to do the same thing here. And the nice part is this stuff is solid core. So once you get it in place, it kind of stays there. So there's my white, brown, brown up top, followed by white, green, green up top. Those are in. Now I'm going to do the bottom, which is the white, blue, blue, white, orange, orange. So I'm going to take the wires here, and I'm going to do white, blue, blue back here. White, blue, blue, and those bottom slots down there. And now I need white, orange, orange. Oop, come on. So white, orange, orange. So as I look across the top on our connector, I should see white, brown, brown, white, green, green up top. On the bottom down here, I should see white, blue, blue, white, orange, orange. Excellent. Those are all kind of snapped into their little slot or pulled into the little slot. I'm now going to take my little electrician scissors, and I need to trim the excess wire off. So I'm just going to go right down the line here and trim these off. And you'll notice the little hooks that the wires are in, the little slots they're in, are kind of holding it in place for you. So there's not too much worry about these going anywhere. Okay. Now that I have that trimmed up, I can slide it into my connector. Now, the connector, there's a little notch on the bottom here that needs to line up with this part here so it clicks in place. This only goes one way. I can't put it the wrong way. I have to do it this way, where this little tab on the connector here lines up with that little notch there. So I will line it up and I will start to feed it in. Once I get it started, I'm going to use my tool here, and this is going to come around this way to, actually this way. Here was my tool that I used previously. I'm going to take my connector, and it's going to sit right in here. Okay. And then I'm going to bring this around, and this little cam is going to squeeze these two halves together. And I'll hear it kind of snap in as I do it. Okay. It was just this motion right here. Boop. And that snapped right in. That's it. There's terminating our outlet. Now, we can't test this yet until we terminate it with our patch panel. So once we do the patch panel termination, we can actually hook the meter up to this cable run and test this functionality. So for right now, just kind of coil this up and save it until we can do the patch panel termination. Now, to get credit for doing this, take a picture of your outlet terminated, a picture or video, and submit that to the Dropbox so that I can see your outlet terminated to your cable. Okay? That'll get you credit for this lab.